Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. Originally Edgar Swan, a low-level institute worker who found himself on the wrong end of the law after stealing cigarettes. He believed his trial worked out in his favor, offered probation in the form of living in isolation for a month, provided with food, water and shelter, only requiring him to write in a journal. Unbeknownst to Swan, he had been infected with FEV, and the probation he accepted was a ruse to observe the effects. By the 6th day, Swan realized something was wrong when the scientists returned for additional tests. His body ached, and he felt jittery and agitated. His mind was racing, and he felt as if he could hardly write. He knew the scientists had done something to him, but he was not aware of what it was. 2 weeks into the experiment, Swan's condition stabilized and improved by all accounts. He had experienced a 3-fold increase in muscle mass and a major increase in intellectual capacity. Swan was now privy to the experience in its entirety, but was enthusiastic about it, even having applied to the research team, anticipating assisting in his own experiment. However, Swan found that by the 3rd week of the experiment, his mental faculties were backsliding. He experienced seizures and returned to the observation lab. He understood that his prognosis was poor and learned that the viral strain he was infected with is fundamentally unstable. His health rapidly deteriorated, and he knew that the seizures were only the beginning of the side effects he would endure. He anxiously waited to discover his own fate, worrying the scientists would reject him, as they had done for so many others. Swan's fears of being exiled to the Commonwealth were realized, and he eventually made his way to Boston Common, an abandoned park in the downtown ruins, where he made his home in the groundskeeper shack. It was here that he finally lost his mind to his mutation, eventually creating armor from the ruined swan boats of the pond, having turned into a super mutant behemoth by 2287. His experiment logs are found scattered around his living area. The area in which Swan lives is considered extremely dangerous, and wastelanders avoid it at all costs. Makeshift signs warn of his presence as one approaches Boston Common. Raiders chasing the sole survivor will refuse to advance into Boston Common. The bodies of victims who did not heed the warnings are strewn around the area. Swan is a boss creature found at Swan's Pond, an outdoor location in the middle of the city. In the middle of the pond is a pile of debris made up of a white swan, a tire and a branch. This pile occasionally shifts in place. Should the sole survivor or their companion approach the mass, it will reveal itself with a roar, emerge from the water and start attacking. Damaging the pile may also cause Swan to emerge. Swan's combat consists of several attacks, including slamming on the ground with his anchor, which can stagger the player character, and a charge attack, where he slams the player character with his shield. He's also able to throw rocks from a distance. Unlike normal behemoths, Swan is wearing makeshift armor created from swan boat fragments and thus has good damage resistance and energy resistance. Like all super mutants, he is immune to radiation damage, as well as having 100 resistance against poison damage. If the player character is beyond the area around the pond, Swan will only be able to fight the player character by throwing rocks. If the player character travels beyond Swan's throwing range, he will return to his position submerged in the pond or roaming the perimeter. Swan can be stunned by hitting him with a powerful melee weapon such as the super sledge. Crippling one of Swan's legs will render him unable to attack or defend. Near to Swan's location there is an open pre-war armored personnel carrier. The sole survivor can utilize this vehicle for cover while fighting Swan. When fighting raiders outside combat zone, they will run away if they are critically wounded and yell, "I'll let the Swan deal with you," or "Stay back, let Swan deal with him/her." If he exits combat and reverts to a neutral state while in the water, he regenerates all of his health. He uses a powerful melee weapon known as the anchor. The roar he lets out when emerging from the pond is actually a heavily distorted yell. He is yelling, "Swan!" Simulation completed. Please exit the pod, or have a technician select another file.